You're now watching the Danny Mac Podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
So for the first time in maybe in your lifetime, you're looking forward to having how many Bears? 3 on your fantasy football team this year? Welcome back to the Danny Mac Podcast on the Bet Rivers Podcast Network. I'm Dan McNeil, and if you've been watching the NFL Draft Night 1 as I have been, you are just stunned by the quarterback love that has gone on in the NFL on this evening. 5 of the first 10 players chosen are quarterbacks, with the Falcons moving up. My goodness, the Falcons at 8. The Vikings move up at 10 to take J.J. McCarthy from Michigan. The Falcons, shortly after signing Kirk Cousins to that big free agent contract, take a quarterback? Wow. Michael Penix Jr. on his way to Atlanta. Good stuff. But right now, what matters most is all those weapons on the Bears offense. And how did you like Caleb Williams when he came out of the tunnel, if you will, at the NFL's draft show in Detroit? He shouted. He looked excited. He is enthusiastic. He had the right answer because of how much he cares is why Bears fans should be excited about him. That is the right thing to do for the Bears. That much you've heard me talk about for many months now on this podcast. What I have not talked about as of yet is the Bears passing on an opportunity to take the third best tackle in the draft or the best pass rusher, because Dallas Turner and Jared Verse were still on the board when the Bears selected 9, and they decide they wanted Rome Odunze out of Washington. I kind of poo-pooed this when I heard some sports yappers this week project that with some certainty, that they would wind up taking Odunze. I thought after they made the trade for Keenan Allen of the Chargers, that would be enough this year. And I'm not among those who did cartwheels over the trade for Allen because of his age and because of how much time he has missed in his career. He's missed 6-7 games in the last 2 years. He missed an entire season 12, 13 years ago. He's a precise route runner, but he's not going to play forever. And when a guy's 33, man, is that clock ticking. So because of that, I can't be over the top critical of Odunze. And I do think that it gives you so much confidence in terms of the guys you have on your side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball, who can make a difference this year with the Bears, are more than they've ever had in my lifetime. You've never had a wide receiving trio like DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze. This is going to be a thing. This is really good. But I just wonder, did you forget something that has been forgotten now for 40 years in this town? And that is, are you forgetting to protect your number one asset? Are you not ensuring Caleb Williams having the ability to stay vertical? Braxton Jones did not take a step in the right direction at left tackle last year. He had a good rookie year, real solid year. 5th-round pick out of Southern Utah. Expectations weren't real good. He was rubbery when he got to the Bears. But he started his career looking like he belonged, and it was a very good first year. Last year, not the next step. You had Alt go at number 5 to the Chargers, and then you had Latham go to the Titans. You had a chance to get one of those kids to make a difference on your offensive line, and you chose to go wide receiver. Jim Finks. That's not the way Jim Finks built the Bears of the 80s. And I'm not going to beat it up, but I'm making a note of this that it is definitely a concern because the Bears' offensive line wasn't very good. Now they got some help via free agency, via trade, but are they spectacular on the offense? No. On the offensive line, no, they're not. Darnell Wright might have the highest ceiling of the bunch. I don't think that's a stretch to suggest that. He didn't miss any snaps last year. He was always on the field. Is he going to be a great right tackle? Might he be better on the left side? Does Braxton Jones have the length you need from a left tackle? Man, I don't know. But the Bears didn't see fit to upgrade the protection package. They take Rome Odunze, the wide receiver out of Washington, Michael Penix, chosen right before him, going to Atlanta. 5 quarterbacks taken. The first 4 picks in this first round, I thought were pretty easy to call. It was obvious Caleb Williams was coming to Chicago. The only thing I wasn't certain about was whether the Commanders were going to take Jaden Daniels or Drake May. I predicted they would take Daniels when push came to shove, and that's where they went. And then May went number 3 to the Patriots, looking for Mac Jones's successor. Mac Jones taken in the middle of the first round just 3 years ago. Look at these teams that 3 years ago drafted quarterbacks in the first round, and they're chasing Chicago, New England. There is no certainty that your Messiah is here. But it sure looks good from a Bears standpoint, and I think it was obvious that you take the consensus number 1. If this fails, if Caleb Williams is not a great pro, does that mean Ryan Poles doesn't deserve to continue? No, I wouldn't suggest that to you. He was the consensus number 1 choice. I think you had to pull the trigger on him. I would have felt way worse had the Bears passed on getting a quarterback with the first pick in the draft, which they did a year ago, so the Houston Texans can go get C.J. Stroud, who passed for 4,100 yards, among the many quarterbacks who would have the Bears' single-season record, which is held by Eric Kramer, 3,838 yards. He set that during the 95 season. So this is the 30th year since. Will Williams break it? Yeah, I think he will. I don't know if it'll be this year, but he should break it no later than in his second year on the job. I mean, Jordan Love had more than 4,000 yards last year. It is not that hard to do if you make 16 starts to get to 4,000 yards. Many very average players have done it, just not Bears players. But the records that are going to fall that are exciting to me, the career receiving record held by Johnny Morris, who last played for the Bears in 1967. 67. I don't remember seeing Johnny Morris play football. The first Johnny Morris experience I had was Johnny Morris was doing games with Tim Ryan when the Bears were on CBS. NFC still had its games on CBS. Fox had yet to swoop in and make the big bid to take them away from the eye. Johnny Morris had 5,069 receiving yards as a Bears receiver. That is the lowest single team career record in the NFL, and by a lot. 5,069 yards. There are 199 guys who have done, actually 198 guys, because one of them did it on 2 different teams. That's Derek Mason. 199 other guys have done more than what Johnny Morris did. Now, who gets there first? Is it going to be DJ Moore? He's got an awfully good start. He had 1,364 yards last year in his first year in a Bears uniform, so he's only 2.5 seasons away from setting that record. Rome Odunze, the baby who runs a 4.45 and catches the ball, he is a contested catch champion. Doesn't that sound good? You've got the sleek route runners in Moore and Allen, and now you have a guy who is terrific in the red zone. He's a Guwagi guy. He goes up and gets it. And he also has 4.45 speed. That's pretty good. He'll take the top off the defense, as they say, and free things up in the middle. The Bears are loaded at the skilled positions. DeAndre Swift, the running back, signing a 3-year, $24 million deal. Are they better with Swift than they would have been had they decided to pay David Montgomery last offseason? I don't think so. I think Montgomery was a tougher dude, but they thought that, the $16 million he was getting floated by Detroit was too much, so they passed, and now they're paying for it a little bit more with DeAndre Swift, who, when he was with the Lions, never really garnered the love and affection and trust of his coaches. DeAndre Swift sat in his rookie year behind a 35-year-old Adrian Peterson. So I don't feel as good as some feel about the Bears at running back, although I think they're going to be okay there. The combination of Swift and Herbert and Roschon Johnson, that's not a lot of money tied up between the three of those guys. They should be okay at the running back position. Where they are really loaded is at wide receiver. I'm going to say that again. Where the Chicago Bears are loaded right now on their roster is receiver. I have never said that. I've never felt that. There have been a couple of, outliers where they've had a couple guys have really good years for 1 or 2 years. We saw it most recently with the combination of Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey during the Mark Trestman era. In his 3 years with the Bears, Brandon Marshall was outstanding for 2 of them, and Alshon Jeffrey had a couple of pretty productive years as well. The Bears didn't win, but they scored a lot of points along the way. Mark with a C, Trestman. And those Bears never got to the playoffs. That's why he was here for 2 years. John Fox follows. 3 years of nothingness there. Matt Nagy was next. Of course, the divisional title of 18 after the Khalil Mack deal, the Friday night, the week before the season started. And then a little blip of a playoff appearance in 2020. Most don't remember that loss to New Orleans. It was the NFL's first year of adding a 7th team in both conferences. The Bears were the first beneficiary of that in the NFC. And most people don't even remember Sean Payton. I don't remember much about the game. All I know is they sneaked in to the playoffs, or snuck in, if you want to go that way, and played a memorable or not so memorable game against New Orleans and came up short. This is a really good group at wide receiver, and the only other tandem I can think of that would rival Jeffrey and Marshall would be the 95 tandem of Jeff Graham and Curtis Conway. This trio should be better than all of those guys. I mean, if the Bears don't have a 1,300-yard receiver again and close to another 1,000-yard receiver, something's wrong. Something's wrong. They should have a ton of success throwing the football this coming season. Caleb Williams, the man who initially was feared to not be interested in coming to Chicago. His overzealous father wasn't going to allow that to happen. Remember that talk? And then that Friday afternoon in February in Indianapolis when Caleb Williams silenced all of the nonsense and finally came out and said, I will be excited to play for Chicago if that's where I wind up going. And after meeting with the Bears and after a lot of conversations with the Bears and some teammates he already has begun working out with, it looks like the marriage is off to a very nice start. And that's a good thing. I'm going to talk more about what the Bears did and will continue to try to do over the weekend in this NFL draft with former NFL safety Matt Bowen. He's a regular on the score. I've talked to Matt a handful of times over the years, and he'll be happy to break down this first round of the draft and talk about what the Bears might be able to do with their just 2 more picks remaining unless Ryan Poles does some dealing. I want to thank you for listening to this reaction podcast on the Bet Rivers Podcast Network, which is run capably by my guy Adam Delavitt, my executive producer. Is Sam Michael, the very proud Highland Trojan. Randy Merkin takes care of all the guests we get on the show, and Alex Pastor and Troy Mocker take care of social media and research and development. Back with more on Friday late afternoon. Thank you for listening to the Danny Mac Podcast. I'm Dan McNeil.